You're listening to the Served Up Show, a podcast that features inspiring beverage professionals and topic experts that share their passions through meaningful content. Your hostesses, Bridget Albert, is best known as the Market Fresh Mixologist, an industry mentor with over 25 years of experience. And I'm Julie Milroy, best known for my passion for leading change and helping others grow in their careers. Grab a cocktail and sit back. Let's learn how we can make a positive impact in our industry. Hello, Served Up friends. Julie here. I am honored to introduce David Chaplin, Chief Growth Officer for Southern Glazer's Wine and Spirits. David shares his journey from his first glass, working with his siblings, and leveraging the power of data, analytics, and artificial intelligence to lead SGWS now and into the future. Now sit back, grab your favorite glass of tequila, and get inspired.
David, welcome to Served Up. Julie and I are really excited and honored to have you on the program today.
Thanks so much. Really excited to be here and looking forward to a great conversation. Thanks, Julie and Bridget.
Awesome. David, for some of our listeners that might not know, can you tell us about your journey into beverage alcohol? We know it probably started since birth. But I don't think you've, been with the company coming out of school. I believe you studied law. Can you give us a little idea of what your journey's been like bringing you back here?
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, Julie, pretty much spent my entire life being part of the company in some way, shape, or form, whether it be an internship, whether it be just around the dinner table. But, I graduated University of Miami in 2010, the business school, law school 2013, followed by practicing law for a couple years at a Miami-based real estate, residential and commercial based law firm. And from there, I joined the company in January of 2015 and got started in various roles. But I think for me, it was really about how do I arm myself with the best education possible, combined with the best practical experience and leveraging that education in order to add value to Southern Glazers, which is ultimately, where, I wanted to be and where, I felt like time was being invested in me in order to add value. So I think my goal was to put myself in the best position to be the best version of myself with that background.
Amazing. Can you tell our listeners exactly what you do, David? When we talk about the title of a Chief Growth Officer, that might be foreign to some of our listeners. So can you give us maybe a peek behind that curtain? What does your day-to-day look like?
It's interesting, Bridget, and we've come a long way, and I think it all started with our trip to Harvard, our first trip to Harvard, where a group of leaders at the company had the fortunate opportunity to go through a curriculum at Harvard that looked at other similarly situated companies that were kind of at that reflection point as being atop of their respective industries, tiers, and were kind of faced with these external pressures to look inward and to invest in something that may not be as natural to their company, given their line of work. And for us, we kind of came up with this transformation team as a result of all these different case studies that allowed us to enhance our current capabilities, which became proof, and explore new opportunities, new business models, which became new ventures. And so being on the sales side of the organization, being on the supplier management side was now the SDM group. Once upon a time, it was the strategic supplier group, the supplier management group, and now it's the SDM group. But I think, in looking at that transformation team opportunity, it was really about for us, how do we, continue to stay ahead of the competition and face these external pressures? And that required doing things that, really kind of transformed the way that we go to market as a company, and had a lot of change management components. And so I gravitated towards, that area, which eventually now day to day is kind of the next iteration of that, which is the digital acceleration group, which, we were able to recruit Alan Wiseman, the current chief digital officer that joined us from Target and Lululemon, and has been involved with other digital transformations of significant size and magnitude, and having to work alongside Alan and kind of build kind of the next on all the success that we've had with Proof, and doing 3.65 billion in revenue from zero from when we started the transformation team, and doing over $1 billion in B2C e-commerce revenue as a company. These things didn't exist before at Southern Glazers, and to be part of that, and to add value, is super special.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about when just even in the last decade, how the business and distribution has transformed so much, and really believe in that Southern Glazers has led the way, and as you mentioned, with transformation and digital. What do you feel like is the future of beverage distribution with all of this innovation happening and all the digital components, when, from what we know as alcohol beverage distribution to what the future is?
Yeah. Great question, Julie. And I think it's a true testament to, who we are as a company in terms of having those entrepreneurial roots, and in a growth market, we're all about growth, but in a market that isn't really all about growth right now, which we all know and feel, we are still investing in the future here at Southern Glazers, and our 2030 vision, right, of being selling logistics and insights company, and being the leading company in those spaces. And I think historically we've been really great in terms of sales and service, right? And priding ourselves on that, and having the best selling organization. I think where we're moving towards is really having, a best in class logistics and insights and digital, organization. And so what that's going to require, that's going to change a lot of, how we go to market, right? That's going to require, investment, new talent, new capabilities, investing in current talent and current capabilities. So it's going to really, allow us to win like we've never had before in the market. So that's kind of where we're going as a company, and that doesn't discount anything that we have currently in insights and logistics, but because we do those things at a really high level right now. But I also think that there's a tremendous opportunity to get closer to the consumer, to get closer to the customer in ways that we never have before.
I love that answer. Can you talk to what excites you the most about the beverage industry today?
What excites me the most? I think for me, what has always excited me the most was, just being around the people at Southern Glazers. And I think, I mentioned, it always kind of being a part of, my family, just, being around a lot of, some of the founding team members at Southern Glazers. And, while some of those individuals are not here anymore, it still, for me, has kind of that same feel, even though we're a much, larger company than we were years and years ago. But, just having those mentors for me, and just the time that they've invested, in me and in a lot of other people at this company, I think truly makes it special and makes us unique, and is our secret sauce. And you're seeing that, across the board, through others at the company, and obviously through the next generation, all the different programs that we have, ELP, et cetera. women in leadership, everything that we're doing. I feel like, even before these programs existed, that they were happening, informally through, so many of the founding, leaders and, whether it be, Mel Dick, Brad Vassar, Will Conniff, Larry Goodrich, some names and some individuals, may not have been, modern day leaders, but, I think that what they all, the time that they've invested in the next generation, the wisdom that was passed, the guidance that was passed, you can learn a lot from people that have really allowed this company to be in the position that they are in, that we're in today, and a few of those people who I've learned a lot from are, family members as well. So, it's really special, whether it's family or technically not family, but part of the Southern Glazers family. Just feel really blessed to learn from a lot of the people that put us in this position.
I'm so glad that you mentioned family. You grew up with this iconic grandfather. Your father is so respected and looked up to as an icon as well in the beverage industry. And, being part of this family business, do y'all have some traditions or something? So when y'all get together, you're just not talking about wine and cocktails and spirits?
We have a lot of traditions. I think for the most part, we try to kind of live a well-balanced life, because we do spend so much time with one another, whether it be at, work events, in the office, supplier meetings, company meetings. So there is a lot of that. And we do like to, at the end of the day, it's going to come up, but you kind of try to enjoy each other and kind of strike the right balance between professional and kind of personal and family. And we've been able to do that. We started, since I can remember, with Monday night dinners, which, were every Monday and we're hosted at my grandma's house, my dad's mom who passed. And we continued that tradition on to meeting at other people's houses and kind of just, everyone kind of taking a Monday. COVID put a stop to that, but we're now kind of back in that routine. It becomes a little bit more difficult when everyone has kids and, maybe it's, every three or so weeks now, but it's still, the entire Chaplin family getting together. And it's really special to not only have, the bond in the office, but also the bond that, we'll always have with our family. So very special.
That is so special. I couldn't imagine. But, just being an employee of Southern, you definitely feel it. And for me, really when you, Mark, and Jennifer had really joined the company, I think I was in when we started the regions, it was like an East region meeting. And I think it was one of the first meetings that you and Mark were in the same room, and you had a really nice, comment that you made that really touched a lot of us. And you could see that connection that the three of you have together. Could you just share a little bit more about what does that mean to you, having, your other two siblings kind of, at the forefront of the company and the future of the company?
Yeah, Julie, thank you for those kind words. And I don't remember exactly what I said, but I do, I do know that I was excited at the time, because he was getting into the business and, he, had a similar, kind of experience and kind of, getting his MBA, working outside of the Southern Glazers, Southern company with Gallo. Right. And so working with someone else, which was kind of part of the rubric, if you will. Just, excited to have, someone who, and both speaking to him and my sister, that, it's just as hungry as I am to make Southern Glazers a better company than it was before we kind of got here, and, to add value in different areas in different ways. And just, there is kind of just the sibling, effect of like you wanting to, be with, your siblings. And, I think that's just kind of the nature of kind of how we grew up, how we were raised with our parents. And we spend so much time, working and dedicated and committed to this company that, feel very lucky to have, family members who were so close to, alongside us. So it's, I feel very fortunate to have it. And, I think X amount of years later, 5, 6 years later, it's equally as special. And, he's grown and Jennifer has grown in various roles at the company and are more involved each and every day. So it's, it's something that I don't take for granted and very fortunate.
Something that you mentioned is, again, family and Southern is really true to family values. It definitely trickles down from the top. I've been with Southern for a really long time. When I started, my daughter was 2 and now she's a college student, and to be in a company for that long and to be able to be a role model to my daughter has been incredible. And that Southern really practices what they preach, right? It comes from such a good place. And myself being a mom, I know Miss Julie's a mom, and you are a new dad. Can you tell us what that's like for you?
Thanks, Bridget. You've done your homework. Yeah. So twin daughters,
oh my gosh,
9 months. Yeah. Double trouble. And, it's a double blessing. I think, just a credit to my wife because, to be able to, have the commitment that I have and the family has to the company while, doing such amazing, job with spending the time and effort. And, everyone knows what it's like to be a parent. And then you kind of add 2 at the same time for your first. And it can get a bit hectic, a bit crazy, but it's good crazy. And, it continues to get better and better. And, to your point, it just kind of gives you, another kind of extra gear to be the best version of yourself for your family. Cause now you're kind of creating a family of your own. Right. And you want to lead by example and do more than you ever have. So, don't want to tear up here on the show, but it's definitely something that I'm a girl dad now. So I guess I can tear up a little.
Yes, you can. I love it.
Wow. A double girl dad. Did you say how many months?
Going to be 17 months.
17 months. Okay.
Yes, I'm still counting months, Julie. So that's
I know 17.
That's how I'm in it, right?
Yeah, I know. I think we can all relate. I had my son I don't want to say at Southern, but while I was employed with Southern, and it just like you said, it's like a whole nother set of skills that you learn to be, a better version of yourself. And there's so much to learn and nobody really tells you what to expect. And you just learn as you go. So that's great. And we can continue talking about all the kids, all the new siblings, kids in the family. But tell us a little bit more about, you mentioned, you touched briefly on digital. What are some new and exciting things that are happening that we and our listeners should be expecting that you can share with us in regards to Southern Glazers?
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot going on right now, and we're just getting started, right, in terms of just onboarding the new team, obviously building on all the great success that we've had with Proof, but I think how we're looking at the business has completely changed. I think we've been really, really successful in kind of, working within a model that you don't see today at a lot of companies that are leaders, in digital, right? And so a lot of tech companies, and so we're moving to a model that this product-led model, this platform-led model, instead of teams that are really kind of operating in silos through a transformation team, a matrix SWAT team like approach that's kind of working across everything. And so it's going to allow us to be a lot more agile, to deliver around value, to deliver around outcomes, to deliver around our 3 most important stakeholders with specific, product teams around supplier, customer, and internal teams, starting with sales team. So, we're getting a lot more specific to, who we're delivering for, versus, we believe this, this feature is a really cool feature. And this functionality, is something that kind of we want to develop, versus really tying everything, to specific KPIs, specific value for these three stakeholders that are so important to us and so important to our success. And then the last piece is, really around data, and AI and ML. And, I think, it's again a testament to what we've been able to accomplish in a one size fits all approach, to really tying data and insights through, all of these products and these experiences, what we call companions, which we're going to roll out to these stakeholders, because it's such an important part of, we have the best data, right? We are able to acquire the best data, being in every market and having the broad portfolio. Fortunate to have that portfolio, and it's now about maximizing that, to make sure that we continue to win for our suppliers. We make it as easy as possible to engage with our customers, and that our salespeople are have the highest likelihood of achieving the plans that are in place, from a supplier standpoint. So that's what digital should allow us to do as a company, right? This is an investment we're making to widen our gap and our competitive advantage in the market.
It's amazing. It really is. Can you talk a bit about the company's new vision through 2030?
I mentioned a little bit about this earlier in the podcast, and appreciate the opportunity to dive a little bit further into kind of the vision and what it means specifically. And I do think it's broad for a reason, because we are going to dream big with this 2030 vision, right? And so I think when you think about our vision and you think about some of the competitors in our industry and even beyond our industry, they're really focused truly on kind of selling, right? They're selling organizations, and we feel like we're a best in class selling organization. We feel like we're best in the business, but it's really about investing beyond that, continuing to build brands, but also building out these other capabilities in logistics and insights, so that we really have three areas where we're best in class, and we're making investments that are really on par with the other companies that are best in class in those respective spaces. And I think when you think about some of the internal initiatives that we have going on at the company, they line up with our 2030 vision. It's not just putting out a vision and saying this is who we want to be as a company. It's everything that we do ladders up to that 2030 vision and making it a reality around the capabilities that we're investing in logistics and insights.
Yeah, and you spoke a lot about the digital piece and insights, and you've mentioned logistics a couple times, and I've been fortunate to be able to work with the supply chain team on some of our newest logistics offerings. Can you share a little bit about that with Anchor and being, kind of a different platform, as a distributor that really solves a lot of logistical problems for some of our wine suppliers and other suppliers?
Yeah, and it's really about getting closer to our suppliers, on that side in terms of kind of aggregating inventory and providing, as close to as we can, right? That real time, aspect of getting inventory, to the markets and to customers and end consumers as fast as we can in the most seamless fashion possible, right? And so that's really what everything that we're doing is all about. And when you think about not only Anka, but how we are getting closer to the consumer, to the customer and to the end consumer through our DWSs around the country, through a lot of the areas around that we're investing in around micro fulfillment. Those types of things will allow us to really react in line with the market, kind of instead of having large facilities that we're operating at a very high level, but it's really about kind of getting closer to the consumer.
One of the things, David, I think that our listeners would love to know, because you do have such a busy life, right? And you have got a busy gig, home life with twins, all of it. What are you doing for fun? How are you unplugging? Something we talk about a lot on Served Up is, how to maybe find that balance. I'm not a big believer in balanced life, by the way. When you have kids, it kind of goes out the window. But how are you finding, that fun, that spark in your life?
Yeah, so it's just some hobbies, some passions of mine. I definitely picked up golf. I've always kind of played, but I think it's now kind of a way to just be competitive without breaking a bone, or basketball used to be kind of my sport of choice, but after you get popped in the face a few times, and it ends up not being worth it. So golf, I've also picked up because I played tennis growing up, and paddle's kind of the new sport. I don't get to play it that frequently anymore. Same with golf, but I do get occasional paddle match in. But I think for the most part, it's just I've had the same group of friends since high school. I've definitely added friends from college, law school, and beyond. But I think just getting together with them, our significant others, whether it be going out, going to someone's house, and just kind of like having a great time and reconnecting, and to be able to have the same friends for that long, and to continue to stay in touch, and kind of, as we all had kids at the same time, get our families together. I think that is probably something that I love to do. I've kind of modeled it off of my family, values, and just kind of staying close to a group of friends that I've had for a long time and have known me for a long time. So it's definitely a lot of fun, and it's a good way to unplug.
Absolutely.
It's really important to do that. It just is.
Yeah. What about you both?
David, you know what? I live in the small town that I grew up in. My story is long. I'm not going to share it on this podcast today, but maybe sometime I'll get to meet you and we can have a cocktail. But same. I have the same friends since high school. I have a huge family, lots of cousins, aunts, and uncles. And what is sacred to me and my husband and my daughter is that we have game night. You come to my house, you're not going to win. And if you do, boy, we're going to raise some hell. We love to get together. It's the same thing. It's nothing big and fancy, right? It's just getting together over a great meal and playing some cards.
Awesome. Yeah, we're being here in Miami. You got to be on the water. So we're big boaters. And my husband and I, we picked up fishing. Our son is 12 years old now, and he'd rather be hanging out with his friends, playing video games and going out on the boat. So we go and do it ourselves, but that's super nice.
Awesome.
Yeah. So David, what's coming next? What are you most excited about? And, one of the questions that we also love to ask, being that we're in beverage alcohol, what is your go-to drink? What is your cocktail of choice, and what is your wine of choice?
For me, I love, all of our brands, categories in our portfolio, right? You're going to get that from me. I love all, my brothers and sisters equally. But however, right, I'm a tequila drinker. I'm a, Blanco tequila drinker. That's my drink of choice. On the rocks, tequila soda, Blanco and soda with a splash of lime is my drink of choice. On the wine side, I prefer, red wine. I don't, discriminate, but, I prefer red wine, either, Cabernet, Pinot. Those are generally the varietals that I, red blends that I go for.
Mm.
Well, it's been such a joy to have you on Served Up. This has been so much fun, David, to get to know you and all the great work that you do each and every day. I know that our listeners are going to take away some amazing insights and just that peek behind the curtain of Southern Glazers. So thank you. And on behalf of the Served Up family, Julie and myself, we want to wish you just some great health and a lot of peace. And just thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Bridget. Julie, it was a pleasure. Looking forward to catching up with you guys later and staying in touch. Appreciate you having me.
Thanks for listening. Served Up is brought to you by Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits. Produced by Zunu.online. Music by We Killed the Lion can be found on Spotify. Make sure to subscribe to be notified of future Served Up episodes. Cheers!